Alright everybody, so after we have overlocked the armholes on both sides, now we have some kind of shirt. As you can see, there's my sleeves, there's my front, there's my neckline, and there's my other side here. So this next step is for those that have decided to have a vent on the side seam. Remember in class I showed you guys that my shirt had a vent here. So if you are going to follow that method with the vent on the side, this next step is for you. So what you want to do after you've overlocked your armholes on both sides, we will take our shirt on the right side, which is this side, and then we're going to flip them open like that. So that we can overlock the sleeves from this point, sleeves, all the way to the side seam. So this whole section we're going to overlock separately, that one and the other side, yeah? So this is the back and that is the front, yeah? So that we can prepare this area for the vent. But for those that's not doing the vent, you are going to do the other method where you will take the right side and then you will flip it over so that the wrong side can face you. Then you can line up the front to the back, line up your armholes, pin it, and pin your sleeve together so that you can sew from one point all the way across the armhole down to the side seam all the way to the hemline. That is for those that's not doing the vent. You will then do a close seam. For those that still can remember the method of the close seam, you will then do this, a close seam. But for those that's doing the vent, like I said earlier, we will do an open seam. And our open seam is going to be 1 centimeter. So again, we're going to go to our overlocker. For those that's doing the vent, we will overlock this area and that area. Let's do that right now. So we're going to continue now. We have overlocked this edge here. This is the front side where the sleeve and the sides or the front is connected. We have overlocked that, and then we've overlocked the other side where the sleeve and the back is connected, yeah? So once we have done that on both sides, now we will prepare the vent. That is our next step, yeah? So we will take one of our sleeves like that. This is still the right side facing us. And hopefully you guys can see on the video. There we go, here's our vent. We will now take the panel that we've cut for our binding strip. Remember that piece? Yeah? We will take that and we will sew this in the vent area. Yeah? So what we want to do first, we want to take that piece, fold them in half, and then we're going to iron them flat. And then we're going to take our scissor and then we're going to split these into 2 pieces. Yeah, we're going to split it in half because we need one for the right side and one for the left side. Yeah, and I of course gone ahead already and cut mine in half, and now I'll head over to the ironing and I'll show you guys how to iron the strip and get it ready so that we can sew it into the vent area. Let's head over to the ironing board right now. So here we are at the ironing board. We're going to iron our piece maybe a little bit flat, get out all the creases, and then we're going to take this piece and then we're going to fold them in half as well. But make sure you know what is your right and wrong side, so double check that real quick. Let me just discover my right and wrong side. So this is my right side and that's my wrong side. So I want to leave the wrong side facing up so that I can fold that inward like that. And then I'm going to press it flat with the iron. Just finger pressing it a little bit so that I can have a crease line. Once I'm ready, grab my iron. There we go. So that's my crease line. Getting my middle line. Now from this point onwards, I'm going to open it up. Hopefully you guys can see in the video. Open them up. And then I'm going to fold them again inward onto that crease line that I've made. And I'm going to iron them again flat on there. Maybe I can zoom in a little bit more. Fold them inward like that. And iron them down. Then once we got one side flat, we will now fold him again over so that we can get the other side flat as well. Once we have both flat, we will now fold them again and then flatten both of them on top of each other. Alright everybody, after we've ironed our binding strip, this is how it looks. So all the raw edges is on the inside over there, as you can see, so that we can create some sort of manual binding so that we can attach it to our vent on our sleeve. And that's how we're going to sew it in a few seconds. So that's how it's going to be, yeah? We're going to head over to the sewing machine and we're going to just sew this in the vent. Cool. So we're going to tackle this vent now, but the first thing that I want you guys to do is take your sleeve on the right side, go to the vent, and now we're going to actually cut the vent a little bit and make it a V at the point here. We're going to cut like about 3 millimeters upward, like that. 3 millimeters and 3 millimeters. We're going to make a little V up top there. But that V will allow the binding, when we sew the binding, to have a little bit of an ease on that point there. So that's what we're going to do. Grab your scissor and cut it in a V, but not too deep, guys. Make sure it is about 3 millimeters of cut that you're going to be doing. One point and the other point, just like a little V here. That will allow us to open the vent a little bit easier when we start sewing the binding around this area. So just make that real quick and then we will continue with the binding. Alright, after we've done that, we will take the right side of the fabric facing us again. We will grab the binding that we've already gone and pressed with the iron, and now we will take this gap here, we will open the vent like that, and then we will we'll open the binding and take the vent and just stick the vent into the binding like that, yeah? And then we close it up. So edge of the sleeve and the edge of the binding. And then what you can do at this point in time, guys, just grab a pin if it's a bit difficult for you to handle. Grab the pin and stick the pin in there. So the pin keeps the shirt or at least the sleeve to the binding, just like that. And now that you are on that point, we are now ready to insert the sleeve into the binding from one side all the way to the other side. Yeah, we will do that right now. And make use of some pins and slap some pins in there if you need to. Alright, everybody, so after we are ready, we've pinned everything, we are now ready to sew this binding. Yeah. So what you want to focus on for this mission is just to get the binding in the middle of the foot. So here's your foot, there's your can I zoom in more? No, I can't. So use the half of your foot and the binding. We want to sew 3 millimeter on the edge from the edge of the binding. So you can go ahead and measure that with your measuring tape or your ruler. We want to sew 3 millimeter on that edge. Yeah. Right. So that's what I'm doing. Placing my fabric under the foot. Lower the needle. And then we're going to do a back tack, 1 to 3, 1 to 3, remove the first pin, hopefully you guys can see on the video. So what I'm doing is I'm bending this other part, so that's why we did that little cut in earlier, guys, so that it's easier for us to maneuver this part here, yeah, so that we can get to sew around that curved line. So I'm removing that pin that was on the curved line, and I'm holding it down with my fingers. Alright, we're almost at the end. We'll do a back tack at the end. There we go. So the binding is attached. And the only thing now we need to do is trim the edges, making sure it's even, and then doing a little nip in here. But that will be in the next video.